There are few intellectuals that had a stronger impact on the early intellectual development of the United States than Ralph Waldo Emerson. Ralph Waldo Emerson was an essayist, lecturer, poet, and philosopher of the 19th century. Emerson was a champion of individuality and a critic of the pressures of conformism imposed by modern society. In this video, I'm going to examine two of Emerson's essays, the essay History and the Oversoul. Emerson was an important figure in the transcendentalist movement in the United States during the 1830s, till his death in 1883. The transcendentalists believe that all people are outlets of the Oversoul, and because the Oversoul is one, this unites all peoples as one being. In an essay titled The American Scholar, Emerson posited that there is one man, present to all men only partially, and the one man can only be found in society as a whole. Each person is empowered to behold within themselves a piece of the divine Oversoul. In his essay The Oversoul, Emerson wrote, "We live in succession, in division, in parts, in particles. Meantime, within man is the soul of the whole, the wise silence, the universal beauty, to which every part and particle is equally related, the eternal one. Beyond all the actions of the individual's life, there resides a deeper connection to the source of all action. This source is the Oversoul. The Oversoul is that unity in which every individual's particular being is contained and made one with all others." The German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche was influenced by this idea. Nietzsche said that the past continues to flow within us in 100 different waves, and we are what we experience of this continued flowing. Man is a stream whose source is hidden. According to Emerson, there is a duality between the self and the soul, because we are both individual body and collective Oversoul. Emerson describes the self as finite and temporal, whereas the Oversoul is infinite and transcends time and space. The influence of the senses, according to Emerson, have empowered the mind to the degree that the walls of time and space have come to look real and insurmountable. Yet time and space are inverse measures of the force of the soul. Emerson says the spirit sports with time. It can crowd eternity into an hour, or stretch an hour to eternity. The spirit has constructed time and space from itself. According to Emerson, human beings classify objects by color and shape, but these are just accidents of appearance, when it would be more true to see the underlying cause which neglects the surface differences. To the enlightened, all things are friendly and sacred, all events profitable, all days holy, all men are divine. What Emerson is alluding to is the unity of all life, which underlies the surface appearances. There is at the surface infinite variety of things. At the center, there is simplicity of cause. Every chemical substance, every plant, every animal in its growth teaches the unity of cause, the variety of appearance. Emerson gives the Oversoul an absolute reality. He thinks of nature and the Oversoul as one, and together they are God. Personally, I find the term to be quite useful in a descriptive sense. It can be viewed in biological terms and not strictly metaphysical. With his conception of the Oversoul, Emerson posits a new way of conceptualizing history. History isn't supposed to be a set of facts about some time or place that are disconnected from other periods of history. To read history correctly would be to see the universal applicability of it, and the steady course of cause. For example, magic is a premonition of the powers of science. Magic, like science, is the attempt of the human spirit to subdue the world according to the desires of the mind. All the fictions of the ancient world present themselves as a mask or playful expression of what the mind intended to achieve at that time. The power of subduing the elements, of using the secret virtues of minerals, of understanding the voices of birds, are the obscure efforts of the mind in a right direction. History is, according to Emerson, contained within our very souls. It is not a set of external facts disconnected from the inner world of the soul. Our future is already pre-written for us in a sense. We all live by the same laws that govern nature, and all actions and thoughts are already written within these laws. Our thoughts, feelings, and actions have already been done or felt by countless others who lived and died before we were born. There is one mind common to all individual men. Every man is an inlet to the same and to all of the same. If anyone will but take pains to observe the variety of actions to which he is equally inclined in certain moods of mind, and those to which he is averse, he will see how deep is the chain of affinity. Emerson is proposing a new way of reading history. The individual should read history actively and not passively. Historical texts narrate your own life. Emerson claimed that what has been done in a remote age has no deeper meaning than what you are doing today. We can live history in our own person. The point of view from which our history should be read is from there and then to yourself, because you are the center where all history meets. The world exists for the education of each man. There is no age or state of society or mode of action in history to which there is not somewhat corresponding in his life. Since all of history is in the individual, then it is to be explained and understood from individual experiences, and likewise the individual should be understood from history. There is a relation between the hours of your life and the centuries of time contained in our history books, according to Emerson. History is the work of the human mind, and it must be read by this same mind. All facts are preceded by a thought. History is a record of these facts, and they pre-exist in the mind as laws. Contained within the individual is the whole encyclopedia of these facts. History is not some dull book, according to Emerson. It walks incarnate in every individual. The hours of your life can be instructed by ages past, and these ages will be explained by those hours. Each new fact in our private experience flashes a light on what has been done in remote ages, and the crises of our lives explain national crises. History must be this or it is nothing. Every law which this state enacts indicates a fact in human nature. That is all. Man is explicable by nothing less than all his history. According to Carl Jung, the difference between you and a philosopher is that a philosopher can explain ideas of yours in a universal language. All that has been said by wise men in the past describes to each person ideas that are their own. The wisdom of these great thinkers describes our unattained but attainable self. All the literature of the world writes the character of each individual. In great monuments, stories, or works of art, we find a portrait of that which we have been forming in our own minds. The stories of ancient peoples confer personal illusions. We learn about ourselves in these stories because they tell of the universal spirit of humanity. We are always emphasizing the facts of history in our own private experience and verifying them there. The point Emerson is trying to make is that all history should be read subjectively. There is no history, only biography. Each individual has to go through all the facts in history and then live them in their own person before they can be properly understood. What we do not live, we will never know. In his essay titled History, Emerson wrote that civil and natural history, the history of art and of literature, must be explained from individual history, or must remain words. What Plato has thought, he may think. What a saint has felt, he may feel. What any time has befallen any man, he can understand. Emerson says that a certain state of mind is the origin of very diverse works of art, like literature or music, for example. It is the spirit and not the fact that is identical. The work of art and the spirit responsible for it cannot be separated, because they are one. The spirit is communicable only through the work, and it is the spirit in the work that awakens others to a particular action. Everything the individual sees without him corresponds to his states of mind, and everything is in turn intelligible to him as his onward thinking leads him into the truth to which that fact or series belongs. In his essay History, Emerson is arguing for a new conception of history. Our history should be written in a deeper and broader sense than it has traditionally been recorded. Instead of being a chronological record of certain facts, it should express our wide related nature. These facts are symbols which, if interpreted correctly, will reflect the common nature of all humanity. Emerson says the ordinary individual stands closer to the way history should be read than the scientific investigator. Historical facts should be interpreted with a view to ethical reformation, so they are more conducive to physical and spiritual health and well-being. The primary message of the essay is that the mind is one, and that nature is its correlative. It is from this perspective that history should be read and written. What people have done in a remote age has parallels in your own life. You will find similarities in your own private life with the religions of the East and the West. We assume that we under a like influence should be alike affected, and should achieve the like. And we aim to master intellectually the steps, and reach the same height or the same degradation that our fellow, our proxy, has done. There is no antiquity in the history of ancient Greece or of Egypt, and the art and architecture that they left behind is ours just as much as it is theirs. The only difference between them and us is the sophistication of the works we produce, but the spirit is ultimately the same. It comes from the same desires and inclinations. By living history in our own persons, Emerson is alluding to an emotional sharing of experiences. If the same spirit inhabits us, then we can sympathize with any period in history, and draw parallels in our own lives. According to Emerson, the present interest in Greek culture from the Homeric epics down to the time after Socrates and Plato is precisely this emotional affinity. We are drawn to this universal nature that was so beautifully displayed during this period. When we read this history, we pass personally through each period and experience what they experienced in ourselves. It is with this in mind that Emerson says all public facts are to be individualized, and all private facts should be generalized. Then history becomes fluid and true, and biography deep and sublime. This was part of Emerson's project of freeing the individual from the oppressive circumstances of modern civilization, by reconnecting him with something that is timeless, namely the oversoul. When we experience history in our own person, then we pierce to the truth through all the confusion of tradition and the caricature of institutions. To this sacred history, the individual has the key. I am owner of the sphere, of the 7 stars and the solar year, of Caesar's hand and Plato's brain, of Lord Christ's heart and Shakespeare's strain.